The nostalgic image of traditional American life is one that includes the image of the local officer walking the beat, his familiar face smiling as he greets the passing townsfolk. It was a practice known as community policing, the constant presence of an officer in the neighborhood giving a feeling of comfort to millions across America. But not all Americans share the Norman Rockwell vision.
The police were counted on to enforce Jim Crow laws.
We see footage of people getting hosed in the streets during the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Dogs released on them. Why? Because we just want the same rights that, is spoken of in, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
That was that time. That was in the 60s. We should be able to learn from our stupidity, the things that we did wrong in the past. But I believe that in the whole, that all these police departments evolved from that.
Black society, we understand that there's a reason for police, but we still know that because there has been some issues in the past, we still hold that muscle memory. It's tough to get rid of that. That's a generation of people that still believe that, and they've transferred that onto their kids and their grandkids.
I think what people might want to remember before they just go and decide that, hey, it's just white people in uniform, it wasn't just white people in uniform. It was white people who would take off that uniform and then go put on white robes and sheets. And that was a fraternity that was founded by the Democrat Party.
The irony is black support of the Democrats, but the black demonization of cops.
I've always worked minority community areas, and there were times when I started, I saw the public was mad, and I wondered, why is everybody angry at me? I'm here to help. It was only later when I started learning a little bit about history that I realized our relationship between police and the minority community has been a very difficult one.
The African American community have a long history, like no other ethnic group in this country, with the police.
We tend to highlight things in the black community, as they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And society allows it. But in the time of Obama, it got exacerbated. And here's how.
Henry Louis Gates has been spending his entire career talking about, studying, and teaching about race relations in this country. Right now, he is smack in the middle of a debate about race and justice in a very personal way.
911 lines recorded. What's the exact location of your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. I just had an older woman standing here, and she had noticed two gentlemen trying to get in a house. I don't know if they live there and they just had a hard time with their key, but I did notice that they kind of used their shoulder to try to barge in, and they got in.
A neighbor called the police because she saw a person, a man, in this case, Gates, entering Professor Gates' house. Now, people argue that they should have known it was Professor Gates.
I don't know if they had a key or not because I couldn't see from my angle. I just saw her from a distance.
So he goes into the house. A cop is called because somebody saw somebody get into Professor Gates' house. The cop shows up. It was a young white cop. And Professor Gates, being a professor and a member of the intelligentsia, somebody who's a bit of a snob from Harvard, said, "Who are you to question me in getting into my house?" And the cop says, "I'm making sure this is you and your house. I'm Professor Gates," as if he was Denzel Washington. How does this guy know you're Professor Gates? I'd like to see some ID. And it spirals out of control. So next thing we know, Barack Obama's blowing it out of proportion.
I don't know, not having been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that. But I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly.